First we want to add a new event into the date of the event, and then set up an event code, which is just a unique code to differentiate it from all the other events in the system. Then we can go next, finish. Next thing to do is to bring in the courses. The usual way to do this is with a IO XML event on the course planning software. In this case we're using Condis. You can see the set is set up for courses 1 to 8, and importantly the classes have also been set up using the codes that we want to use in O-Lynx. Choose the XML file from the course planning software and import it. This will give you a list of all the courses and the controls. The base courses will also be imported, but we don't need to see these when we're using the software, so mark them invisible. Then it's on to the entries. If you've got a file that goes straight into O-Lynx, such as the enter-o CSV files, you can virtually import these straight away. And you'll see that the chip numbers in here, some of them are blank, where they need to hire chips. In order to bring these chips in, we want some number in there. So use the assign temporary chip numbers just to give them a low value number and then import. And this will bring all your entries in. Just check got a total number of entries. You can just go to the event screen and the statistics for it and just refresh those. And the number of entries listed there should match what was in the entry system. To show you another way of bringing the entries in, go to maintenance and the tools window and delete all those entries that we just brought in. We're going to use the edit all screen to bring the entries in. So open the file that you've got with the entries in it in the spreadsheet. So we're just going to cut and paste and do the edit all spreadsheet. And copy the last name, paste it, and we repeat it for the other columns. Just matching the column order that O-Lynx needs it in. Okay, and then we want to do the same as we did before, where we want to set the non-chips with no chip number, entries with no chip number, to have a value. So I'm going to select the whole column. Then I'm going to use the fill series and just fill a series of low numbers, and don't change any numbers that are greater than 1,000, so it doesn't change any of the user's chip numbers. Also in here we can do things like check the case of the thing. Some teachers like to do their entries with all uppercase. This can highlight it. In this case I'm not going to fix any. And once you're happy with the entries, you can just update that and save it back to the entry screen. So now we're back to where we were, with all the entries nicely entered. So we move on to the start draw. So we press the load courses button first to bring the courses into here. You can see it's generated a list of the courses with the number of entries in it. Set the first start time, in this case 1 o'clock. And I also want to increase some extra spare spaces in the start schedule. So I'm going to put in a minimum of 3 extras per class. This just gives you room to manipulate the start times afterwards if somebody wants a later start time, or you've got a late starter and you can fit them in. You can also do other things like reserved, which sets aside a number of places. So like if you knew you still had some late entries coming in, you could set reserved to 5 and it leaves 5 spare slots. We set some rules that, in this case, the base course matches is the most common one to start off with. And then you press the blue arrow and it moves the time slots across to the start lanes. And the main thing to look for usually is that we haven't got like courses starting opposite each other. So in this case we're viewing the first couple of controls just to see how different they are. We've got a couple that start with the same one first control. But if you look at them, they're intermediate girls and senior boys, and so there's not too much worry about them having the first control the same. Then it's a case of moving the boxes around until you're happy. Whether you want the girls starting first or last or mixed up. And usually, most times we'll have the senior boys and senior girls blocks as at the end of the day. Then everybody can watch the most exciting races if you like. And then generally you want in this case we're using 4 start lanes, so that means 4 people starting at once. And because they're starting at minute intervals, there's no offsets. Those 4 people are just going up at the same time. And you can see here it's going to take about an hour to get through the starters if we use 4 start lanes. You could cut it back to 3 and you'd take a bit longer. We've basically got a nice even start here. Got senior girls starting a bit later. So in this case, I'm just going to mix it up so that it's a mixture of boys and girls. And we'll got all the girls lined up at the start of the day and boys at the end of the day. And you see the senior boys finish starting a little bit earlier. So just to show you the capabilities, I'm just going to move them so they start, their start box finishes at the same time we go. So I'm just going to add a couple of minutes onto that, and we're going to lock it, which basically means it doesn't go straight after the people before it. There's a gap between it. So that's quite good. So then we want to generate the start times. So we go to this entry start times tab. And the first step we're going to actually do is add the extras. You can see that by the different colours that the start groups pretty much are full. If we add the extras, we get those 3 extra slots per group. Then I'm going to press shuffle just to randomly sort it so that I'm not a set start time. And that O-Lynx will also split up the clubs. You generally don't want 2 clubs starting, people in the same club starting one after the other. So they may group up when they're out on the course. So you want to minimise that if you can. Now, if we did have 2 start clubs, these would have been highlighted when we came into here. So you can see that Onslow, there's 2 people starting at the same time, so the second start is highlighted in yellow. But if I move those people apart again, just using the arrow key buttons, I can split it up and then the highlighting disappears. And then we can set the start times and save 2 entries. And just before I go back to the start lane and I just take a photo of that. So I would just want to remember what order the starters were in. I've got a record. Now, as far as producing reports go, we've got our start course. This is a special one formatted for 2021 New Zealand schools. There's templates and the default templates. So one thing we want to, it's just a spreadsheet type file, so it's best to have page numbers on it. So just click that till it turns grey, and then we can see that the got page numbers at the bottom of each page. So we can save that as PDF for publishing. Just give it a name so you know what it is for. So it's start times by course. Yeah, another one that we want is starts by schools. Basically, this just lets teachers have a copy of all their students' start time all together. In this case, we want page numbers and page breaks. And we want to be able to print off a single page that goes in the school packs. We get 1 school per page. And again, save it as a PDF. And lastly, the start sheets. Now, best to leave these till the night before or something, because it changes. And it's just a starters sheet, so it's in just in minute intervals. So the starters can cross off the people that as they come through and note SI number changes and things like that. Again, it's best to turn page numbers on for that type of report. During the following days you can edit and change things like spelling, classes and that sort of thing. If you're changing start times, then you'll have a list of available starts. So this is what shows our 3 slots that were spare. And if you press all courses, you just select it. So this shows all courses. So in worst case, if we used up those 3 slots, we might have spare in the, say, the senior girls that we could slot them into or something. And then select it and it will change on the main screen. Another thing that should be done is setting up a new dictionary if you haven't got one for the event. So in this case, we're going to just give it a name. So we're just going to call it New Zealand Secondary Schools Sprint and Relay, because the Sprint and Relay have the same classes. And if you go to it, it'll initially have no courses set up. And so we're going to import the classes from the entry system. Now the reason you have a dictionary is because it allows you to give it a better descriptive name for classes. So here we're going to call it int boys instead of IB. And this just helps with the results, some of the screens. And then I'm also going to give them order. So it just sets up the order that you want the results in. In this case, I want girls first, and I'm going to start off with the younger girls, younger boys, and so on. And I'm also just going to give them a random colour. This is just for the TV screens showing results. This gives them a more distinct appearance. So if we have a look at the results, and we just do it before the dictionary, you'll see that it's coming out IB first and so forth. So we haven't got just names that actually are meaningful, and also it's just coming out in alphabetical order. So that's why we want to use a dictionary to help be a bit more professional. So we just want to go back, edit the event that was set up, and assign that dictionary to this event. Now when we go back and we do the same results, you can see that I've come up with meaningful names, and it's also in the order that we want here.